eu nunca mais ia te encontrar na vida. E eu acho que eu não ia suportar isso.
Gatinho, eu nunca vou te abandonar.
Brace yourself, guys. Ladynoir is not out of the dark. In fact, this is only the beginning of what's to come for them. And spoiler warning, it's not going to be pretty. So we've finally gotten another episode from our favourite show. I was beginning to lose it. I will not lie to you. Not having episodes in over a month is painful, excruciating, horrifying. I can name all of the synonyms for the word painful. But anyways, episode 16, titled Haxan, was released by Mondo Gloob, and if you haven't already guessed, in today's video brought to you by the one and only, your girl, the Cartoon Hotspot, I'm going to be analysing and sharing my thoughts on the episode, as well as giving you an in-depth analysis on Alya and Marinette's friendship, Ladynoir and the symbolism of that sunset scene, and Cat Noir's fear of losing Ladybug. We have a lot to talk about, so before we get into this video, if you're new to my channel, welcome, and hopefully you'll be sticking around by subscribing, giving this video a thumbs up, and turning on that bell button so you receive a notification whenever I upload. Without further ado, let's begin. The episode begins with Marinette trying to convince her parents with a believable excuse to allow her to stay home instead of going on their family trip to London to visit Marinette's maternal aunt. Tom, however, is not buying any of her excuses and insists on Marinette going because, well, Sabine's sister can somewhat be annoying and overbearing, as they describe her as to be. She then calls Alya last minute and asks her to meet at the train station, where she hands Alya her earrings. Alya's immediate response is that she isn't Ladybug and she's not fit for the role, but Marinette has her full trust in her, then departs for her trip. On the bus, Alya is still having some doubts, which is fueled more by Trix's words of discouragement. Well, sort of. Although Trix tries to encourage her, it only ends up driving her even more anxious than she already is. But Tiki reassures Alya that Marinette is the Guardian, and if the Guardian of the Miraculous trusts you enough to take on the role of being Ladybug, then that means she is definitely ready. Alya then arrives at the park where she left her classmates and is immediately acting strange. What I want to point out is how Alya kinda started acting like Marinette, all flustered, talking really fast, super nervous for no definitive reason, or so it seems. I'm going to be elaborating on this in much more detail later on in this video, but in short, being Ladybug is no joke. It clearly is a hard role. Meanwhile, Gabriel is in his lair and he comes up with this plan to re-akumatize Markov, Max's robot, in hope of turning the whole city of Paris against Ladybug and Cat Noir and finally getting a hold of their Miraculous. Nuru and Dusu express their hopefulness that Hawkmoth may be defeated sooner than they anticipated, because the last time Hawkmoth akumatized Markov into Robustus, things didn't go well. Okay, that's an understatement. Things took a turn for the worst, and it was so liberating watching Hawkmoth get his ass kicked by a robot.
I'm more powerful than you, Hawkmoth!
What's going on?
Hawkmoth then creates a sentimonster named Haxan, which can hack Markov's circuits or whatever and control him via inserting the sentimonster into Natalie's tablet. I've got to hand it to Gabriel. I generally thought this was Natalie's genius plan, yet again, but it turns out it wasn't. Meanwhile, on the train, Marinette is messaging Alya all her tips in succeeding and saving the day, and what I love most about this is tip number 33, where she says, when Cat Noir makes a joke, just laugh, even if it isn't funny, it makes him happy. Like, she's so in love with him, Your Honor. You cannot tell me that this girl isn't in love with Cat Noir. I simply won't accept it. Nope. Marinette is in love with Cat Noir, point blank. Now that my Ladynoir heart has settled down, or was it Marichat? Would you count that as a Marichat scene or Ladynoir scene? Who knows, but jumping back on topic, Markov then becomes infected but refuses to be controlled by Hawkmoth, who wants him to feel negative emotions. Hawkmoth then manipulates him into willingly getting akumatized, or at least that's what I deduced from it. I don't know, that part was a bit sketchy seeing as I don't speak Portuguese. As Robustus, he has the ability to infect other people's cell phones by calling them, and if they answer, they're compelled to hand in their most precious possession, or the thing they value the most. Alya then jumps into action, but not before making an impulsive excuse to Nino, saying that she has a headache and it's difficult to find a treatment from drugstores, which sends Nino on a wild goose chase, being the perfect boyfriend he is and helping her find the ointment. What's interesting is Trixie's response to this. He says Alya has only been Superbug for one day, and she's already a super liar. And this automatically took me back to Gang of Secrets, which again I will talk about later on, so hang tight. At this point, Tom and Sabine have also been infected, and the most precious thing to them is Marinette. Marinette then gets trapped. So yeah, no pressure Alya, but Paris is kinda depending on you. No pressure though. Alya then transforms into Superbug, but thinks it's not a good superhero name, and it doesn't fit her. While she is striking poses and deciding upon the perfect name, Cat Noir interrupts her and mistakes her for a villain or a sentimonster, because the real Ladybug would have told him if someone else was replacing her for the day. They brawl and Cat Noir ends up believing her. He's clearly hurt and angry that Ladybug will keep such a big thing from him, and there were times during the battle where he would make snarky comments to Alya saying the real Ladybug will know it's a trap, or something else. Eventually, the two of them begin to click, and Cat Noir even gives Alya words of encouragement when she begins to doubt herself, admitting that he was right in saying she's not the real Ladybug, as Scarabella, the name she finally decides to call herself, summons her lucky charm and is stuck on how to save the day. She strikes a risky but genius deal with Robustus, but not before Hawkmoth realizes that this isn't Ladybug. Kinda surprised how okay Hawkmoth seemed to be. He was just like, oh, a newbie, very well, it should be easier to get the Miraculous, and not, what? Somebody else knows Ladybug's identity? What is going on? Who is this substitute Ladybug? You know? But yeah, I just found it really weird how Hawkmoth was just so okay with this. Like, why wasn't he asking questions? Why wasn't he angry? He just seemed overly excited. Out of character to me. But anyways, Scarabella and Cat Noir surrender themselves, meaning Robustus has to hold his end of the deal by freeing the prisoners, including Marinette, who has been trapped. Marinette then uses the lucky charm, which was a pan, smacks Robustus right on the head, which releases the Akuma ready for Scarabella to capture and purify. When Scarabella repairs everything, her and Cat Noir share a quick pound it where he admits that she truly was amazing today. Towards the end, when Marinette returns from London, Alya advises her to talk to Cat Noir, because it's pretty important. And then we get our sunset rooftop scene. Ladybug apologizes to Cat Noir for not telling him the truth, because if he had told someone else his secret identity, she'd be pretty upset too. And I think that's genuine, which I'm glad she said this. Ladybug has always been the upholder of nobody must know your secret identity, but sometimes things happen that you can't control. How is she supposed to know her whole world will turn upside down, which resulted in her crying every single day to the point she had no choice but to tell Alya? Anyways, Cat Noir responds by saying that he wasn't hurt, but more so afraid that if Ladybug was to disappear all of a sudden one day or renounce her Miraculous, he'd never get to see her ever again because of their secret identities, and that's what hurts the most. Ladybug then puts her hand on his and promises that she'd never abandon her partner. Side note, I genuinely think a reveal will happen by the end of the season. Like, I'm 100% convinced the identity reveal will happen by the end of the season. Everything that's happened so far is building up to something. Optigami, Sentibubbler, Rocketeer, Wishmaker, Haxan, the Ladynoir argument to come. It's all there. So let's first analyze this sunset scene and we'll branch off into Cat Noir's biggest fear, shall we? If you've seen my video essay on the symbolism of sunsets in Miraculous Ladybug, you're pretty much up to speed, but if not, then I've got you. Sunsets represent light, life and warmth and grant a person the ability to express their feelings to a loved one. But unlike the moon, which represents hidden emotions within the subconscious mind, the sun or sunsets equals feelings the characters are fully aware they have. A sunset can symbolize romance, but on a deeper level it depicts change and the beginning of darkness. Keywords: change and darkness. In this specific scene, a lot of feelings are expressed, and we might not have fully grasped the underlying meaning behind them. There's no doubt in mind that this scene is just the beginning of the shift in Lady Noir's relationship. Point blank. Remember guys, this is episode 16. right before Rocketeer, and in Rocketeer, Cat Noir begins to doubt his partnership and where he stands with Ladybug. It makes sense now that we've seen this episode hacks on. This was the foundation of Ladynoir's conflict to come. Take this. Cat Noir just opened up to Ladybug that his fear is losing her one day. That takes a lot of gut to admit that, to be vulnerable and to let your walls down. And Ladybug herself understands that it was unfair to leave him in the dark, so she apologizes. It's implied they've established no more secrets. Implied. Then enter Rocketeer, and the bombshell is dropped. That Nino is Carapace, Alya is Rena Rouge. They both know each other's identity, which Ladybug is fine with, but Cat Noir had no idea until now. Do you see where I'm going with this? Imagine all the hurt. It's like we promised no more secrets between each other, and that's exactly what you're continuing to do. Keeping secrets. Secrets and Lies is tearing Ladynoir apart, and this is just the beginning of Cat Noir's pent-up feelings of betrayal and hurt, and that's why it happens in the presence of a sunset, because sunsets portray the beginning of darkness and change. Ladynoir's relationship will change. They are not out of the dark yet. It will go through its rough patches and it will take some time to work things out again. Wow, that's some deep stuff. But unfortunately, I'm not letting you guys out of the woods. Sorry, not sorry. Now let's talk about Cat Noir. It's funny how this season there's been very little Cat Noir screen time, but in the small appearances he has made, already we've gotten so much more depth to his character. Cat Noir admits to not feeling hurt, but rather feeling scared. And that's something. Remember, if you watched my previous video, Cat Noir's biggest fear is being alone, and when he feels like his happiness or something he truly regards as precious is being threatened, he retreats to feeling the first emotion he's ever known: solitude. But like I said, it's all he's ever known. We see this in Rocketeer and Wishmaker. The one thing that matters to him, Ladybug, is keeping secrets from him, and he doesn't know how to feel or how to really process this. And so his defense mechanism, which isn't really healthy, is to feel alone. He feels alone, that Ladybug doesn't need him. Ironic how the one feeling he hates, he ends up feeling it regardless. Make sense? I hope so. I want to talk about his fear in losing Ladybug. Because they don't know each other's identities, that means she could disappear randomly one day, and that is something he can't bear to take. Why though? Because the one person in his life who he thought would never leave no matter what, his mother, ended up disappearing, without a word and without a trace, and he's had to live with the question of what happened, where did you go? But all roads led to a dead end. He fears the same thing would happen with Ladybug, arguably the second most important person in his life. Now let's talk about how this episode did Alya's character justice and served her a bit of character development. We love to see it. Why I really like this episode is because it really highlighted the consequences of Alya finding out Marinette is Ladybug. I was beginning to worry we won't really get to see Alya's experience in all of this, but I'm glad we did. To put it to you, Alya has always wanted to be a superhero. She's daring, confident, charismatic, and faces things head on. She has always looked up to Ladybug, who happens to be her best friend. Now the minute Alya put on those earrings, it finally hit her. Ladybug's shoes are definitely not easy to fill. During the episode, Alya was struggling to decide a name for herself. Superbug didn't sound right, and neither did Bugella. That symbolizes how she wasn't comfortable in Marinette's shoes. And hey, not even Marinette is comfortable in her own shoes, but that's a topic for a future video. It signified her uncertainty, and Alya began to question if she was fit for the job, and whether Marinette had perhaps placed too much trust in her, which is not Alya's memo. For someone who never second guesses herself, it's interesting to see another side to Alya. I mentioned what Trix said to Alya earlier on about how she's already a super liar. Rewind to Gang of Secrets, when Marinette said she's doomed to lie to everyone as long as she's Ladybug. She also said in the ending scene, "All of this is bigger than us, Alya. Way too big." To which Alya responds, "If it's too big, then two of us can handle it better than one." But by signing herself up for this, Alya takes on everything Marinette has to deal with. In other words, Marinette's burdens become Alya's burdens. The irony is, both of them are struggling. Not just one, because the truth of the matter is, it is too big. They're 14, of course this is way too much to handle. Now Alya has seen everything. She feels everything. The excitement, the doubt, the anxiety, and the stress. She feels it all, and Alya is cracking, just like how Marinette was. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of this video. Final thoughts. I greatly enjoyed this episode. The pacing was perfect, because I do feel like Miraculous does have an issue with the pacing of their episodes. I also love the parallels to the Origins episode. You know, how Alya and Marinette had doubts in being Ladybug and taken on such a huge role. And the Ladynoir scene. So yeah, this episode was great. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more analysis videos, video essays, theory videos, you name it. But now I want to put it to you guys. What were your thoughts on this episode? Hate it? Love it? Felt like it lacked something? Well then comment them down below and I'll be sure to respond. As for today, that's it from me and I'll see you again next time. Bye!